Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. You may have seen the report recently about a tagged salmon that was detected in the Erriff and was subsequently discovered to have travelled nearly 2,500 kilometres from southwest Greenland. It's incredible and direct evidence showing the journey that the Atlantic salmon has to endure to spawn in our rivers. And so to find out more, we spoke to the IFI's Glen Wightman, who told us about the discovery and what it means for our understanding of the salmon's life cycle. But first, Tom, you've been suffering up there, I tell you, in the cold, the no power, no water. You got some hit up with the storm there up in Connemara.
Yeah, it's really bad. The worst I've ever seen. So, we're nearly today's Thursday. So, look, it's going to be a week now since the storm hit on Thursday night, Friday morning last week. And we still don't have power. No power, no internet. We're lucky we have water because our local water is done on gravity feed. Swear to God, but I know plenty of homes in the other parts, the parish and place that didn't have water. So yeah, it's really, really bad. I mean, like I'm doing this. Fair play to a lot of fishermen that are listening to us today will know of Burke's and Clonbur. You've been in a good few times. Fair play to Thomas, because the village of Clonbur actually has power. And Thomas has opened up Leppingen this morning. You were alluding to the fact that people might think of a secret drink problem as sneaking in a side door at the pub.
We're recording this at 10 a.m., folks, in case if you've seen Tom going into the pub at 10 a.m. in Clonbur, it's to record for work.
I have a reason. But yeah, fair play to Thomas here in Burke. So but it's the charm of candles goes, definitely after 2 nights, probably after 1 night. We're really lucky we've got a wood burning stove. We would be, there's a lot of things coming out of, the air to water heaters now that houses have, and pumps, everything running off electricity. It's all very well, but once you're knocked off the grid, it is really hard here. Like little things like showers.
Yeah.
Washing. We're weak now. Laundry.
Yeah.
There is a lot of genuine, I'd say, hardship here at the moment, because, and like where we're looking at it, I would be surprised if we have the power back for next week.
They're talking, is it Monday maybe? Or
Monday, the 2nd, the 3rd.
So you're talking a good 10, 12 days without it?
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be that. Oh, lost two small chest freezers, all gone. Everything gone. Everything gone. So that's it. Have to dump that. Yeah. So yeah, it's not been great. But look, nobody was hurt around us. So that's the main thing. Yeah. Everything else is replaceable.
You just worry about the more extreme weather. It'll become more regular,
Yeah, and this is something that we've alluded to here, definitely on podcast. How it affects our fishing. But sometimes it's only when I think affects the general public more that you can actually make an issue of it.
Exactly, when it's the wider kind of country, because like I said, say Tipperary barely a branch down.
You were saying that, yeah.
Well, yeah, before Christmas, we got hit really bad with a storm, and it was very localized in that sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there wasn't much made of it because it wasn't a nationwide thing. Like we've had much worse here, in other times when other people didn't get affected. So it's just
get it bad at all.
But the very fact that the entire country was on a red warning, but you know what, actually, here's an interesting one, and I know it's absolutely horrendous what people have gone through, but to put it into context in terms of, so I was reading this fly fishing magazine, and it was an article about the bone fishing in Bahamas and an island there. It got hit by this storm. I think it was Dorian, maybe. It was a couple of years ago, 2018. For 3 straight days, the storm was basically sat over this island. It was 200-kilometer-hour winds for 3 days.
Oh,
right. For 3 days, for 200-kilometer-hour winds, right? And these places are not developed. You know what I mean? Not built up.
Yeah.
And because of the infrastructure and everything, because of the damage it caused, the local communities were without power for 11 months. So I'm just I know it's absolutely horrendous what everybody's going through, but it just shows you, the other side, I could 200-kilometer-hour winds for 3 days.
That's phenomenal. Like
And
we probably had them for 2 hours.
yeah, and
Yeah,
no power for 11 months.
yeah,
Like it's just so it's happening all over the world. We're getting, people are getting affected. But
yeah, yeah. No, it really is, and yeah. So I'm not saying, oh, it's great. Other people will start thinking of it now, but sometimes,
brings it to the fore.
yeah, it brings it to the fore. Yeah. But here, listen. Going to talk about you were over in London.
Yes, just back from London.
Yeah.
So there was a very interesting salmon summit called the Wild Salmon Connections was on, and
Who's running it or what? Or
it was the Missing Salmon Alliance. So Atlantic Salmon Trust would had a big influence on that in terms of the running of it.
right.
People want to have a look. It's missingsalmonalliance.org, and then you'll find that the Wild Salmon Connections was the name of it.
We'll
It's
put a link up for it.
yeah, a 3 day conference.
Mm.
I was there on the Tuesday. Some really, really interesting speakers. We got to interview Andreas Eriksson, who's the Norwegian Minister for Climate and the Environment. He gave the keynote speech. So this is for the Last Salmon podcast. We were doing interviews
Yeah.
in another series of Last Salmon, which is launching in March.
Great.
So we got to do a lot of different interviews there. And then, so the kind of talking points were first session was addressing climate change, like topics like, is the world too hot for Atlantic salmon, salmon climate adaptation. There was one on bycatch, the problems of bycatch, and there was another one between interactions between inshore fisheries and wild salmon. Then there was another one on pressures of coastal waters. So there was what was interesting for people was they had a spokesperson from Scottish sea farms on. So she gave a talk on salmon farming and
Right.
how they're adapting. And then they had a panel discussion afterwards because they guys from Norway, really interesting guys. It's a kind of a salmon rivers trust, Norske Lakselver. Apologies for by pronunciation.
To all our Norwegian
Yeah,
listeners.
exactly. Actually, 6% of our listeners are from
Yes.
Norway. Um, but it was really interesting because those guys were just given the kind of black and white of here's the numbers of salmon, declining. Here's the problems we're facing. Here's the kind of red areas, that are also correlated to where the salmon farms are. And then
Mm.
his talk was followed by this woman who was a former regulator, poacher turned gamekeeper,
Gamekeeper.
if ever there was one. And just, yeah, like I say, with any of these, it's like picking up mercury with a fork. You'll never get anywhere.
No. And what was
So,
the response to what you were saying?
well, there was no questions allowed from the floor. And
Oh,
uh, so,
wow.
so questions were sent to actually Ella McSweeney, the Irish journalist. She used to be with RTE. I think she's a
Yeah.
freelancer now. She was the MC moderator. She did a great job. And everybody was complimenting her. She was very good in terms of questions. You don't get a straight yes or no answer. It was questions put to her about, obviously decline and, what should lead, they'll just talk in circles,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
yes, it was very civilized, very civilized,
Yeah.
which is what they wanted. They didn't want
Yeah.
any heckling or booing but what I would say, it was probably good that they had somebody there, but not that you're going to get anywhere from it. I
Mm.
found the Norwegian minister interesting because he was a minister for climate and the environment. So it was a bit like, say all governments do this. It's a bit like, we've said it before with the Irish government, you have the Department of Agriculture, and the
Yeah.
minister for who will say, yeah, aquaculture, great, let's go. Then you have the minister for the environment going, no, we have
Environment.
to protect, so they're kind of talking both sides of their mouth. So Minister Eriksson yeah, he basically said, look, it's not good enough. The pollution isn't good enough. And we need to, we're going to set, regulations. We're going to say it's not good enough. And then, so like one of our questions to him was, okay, and who's doing the reporting and the regulating? Well, the salmon farms most of the time. All right, okay. So they're going to mark their own homework then. Well, we will follow up on everything,
Mm.
like, so what I found really interesting, really heartening was on these conferences, it's away from the stage, away from the main floor. So I met some really, really interesting people, and it was really inspiring. Just people who are so passionate about saving the salmon. But I'm not just talking about
Mm.
anglers, I'm talking about really influential business people who have a
Yeah.
lot of influence and power and clout, who are very involved in NGOs, who have business ideas. And it was just
Right.
heartening and inspiring. It's not just, ordinary anglers on the ground going, save our salmon. This was really interesting. This was people, of the kind of Yvonne Chouinard kind of ilk. He wasn't there, but
Right.
it's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of ilk of people with power and influence who are going, no, this is not good enough. And we need to do something about it. So it was really interesting to find out kind of what they're planning and kind of how you can help as well. So look, I will let you know more and on. We're doing an episode on that whole conference, but yeah, it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating to be there. And I'm always wary because a lot of these things it's a bit of an echo chamber because
Yeah.
it's a room full of salmon people talking about, they all agree with each other, like, but
Yeah.
I did find it heartening. And I did find the networking and connections great. And one of the good things about it was, you had people from the Atlantic Salmon Federation, which is the East Coast, kind of Canada,
Yeah.
North America, that side of it. You had people talking about Pacific salmon. You had people talking about Iceland. Ken Whelan was there. Actually, didn't get to see Ken. Ken, I'm sure you enjoyed it. You had people from Scotland, UK, Norway. So the one thing people were saying is we need to just start coming together more instead
Yeah.
of
Like
instead of
anything,
having
like
10
any
different
movement,
instead of
like
having 10
any
different
movement.
voices. Let's just get some kind of unity together and
Mm.
singularity around the messaging and the voice and the goals. What I liked about the Norwegian guys, they were very simple, and I think this is the way it needs to be done: is remove open net salmon
Open
farms
cage.
from the
Yeah.
from the ocean, close containment. That's the only way. Close containment on land. That's it. That's what we want. Simple as.
Do you know, sometimes the simple messages are the best,
Yep.
aren't they?
Yeah.
You know,
Simple as.
you know.
So they were very good. So yeah, very impressive. And yeah, it's nice to it was nice to be involved and get some good takeaways from it. And like I said, to be inspired about
Excellent.
it. So
No, excellent. That leads,
yes,
and yeah, and that's nice for it's nice for this episode that we're doing here, actually. You
yes,
know?
exactly, with Glen Wightman. And like I said, it brings it home. The story,
Yeah.
it brings it home. One thing I would say, just to finish on this, Tom, is, and like I said, it was a salmon angling audience, and even people who
Mm,
listen to this, will care about the salmon. We're not the ones. It's the mass audience outside.
It's like what we said about, it's like what we touched on earlier with the changing weather. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's the mothers, the parents who are going into the supermarket buying farm salmon, who actually, they're the ones we need to hit in terms of realizing, look, most people don't care. They go, oh, polar bear suffering, that's terrible, but we all go about our lives. Oh, the salmon isn't that terrible, we still go about our lives. It's actually when you can actually make them kind of realize, do you know what? This is why you can't buy farm salmon. This is why the wild salmon is important. And I think also, though, a story like this week's, where Glen Whiteman talks about the journey, the two and a
Yeah.
half thousand,
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
we're just
That's
trying to kind of
just,
bring it home.
yeah, bring it home.
So look, let's hear from Glen now, and he tells us about the background to the discovery of the tag salmon.
The salmon did generate a lot of interest. So I do a lot of tagging of salmon for Inland Fisheries Ireland in the National Salmonid Index Catchment, which is the River Erriff. So this past December 2024, I downloaded all our receivers that monitor acoustically tagged fish that are coming in and out of Killary Harbor and the River Erriff. And there was a strange ID number that came up. It wasn't one of ours. We saw it come into Killary Harbor in June, and then migrate up the river. So we knew it had to be some sort of salmonid, based coming from the ocean and going into fresh water. So it's not unusual to pick up other people's tagged fish. So I contacted the Marine Institute, the Lochs Agency, some of our colleagues in Northern Ireland that also tag, and they all said, no, it's not one of our fish. So we thought this is highly unusual. So I could tell from the tag ID which manufacturer it came from. So I contacted them, and they came back and said it was tagged by Canadian researchers, and it takes a bit for permissions to get through to talk to the various parties. So while that was happening, we contacted colleagues in Canada and the US to see if they had any more information. And it was then that Tim Sheehan from NOAA, the National Oceanic, whatever their one is in there, said that he tagged it with Dr. Martha Robinson from Canada, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, and John Carr, the Atlantic Salmon Federation, that they had tagged the fish on the 20th of September, 23 in the southwest of Greenland at, I'll probably butcher the name, Kortok in Greenland. And when they captured it, it was 63.5 centimeters long and weighed about 3.3 kilos. So that's pretty much the short of the story. It came into Killary Harbor in June 25th. It went into the river on the 26th, and then we picked it up on receivers along the river again in August, further upriver, again in late November. And then once I had all the data, and we went up there and manually tracked it and found it in the washing pool. The last time we saw it was the 13th of December. So it's probably going to spawn. We've got receivers back in the river and in the fjord to see if it survives and goes back, presumably, to feeding grounds in Greenland.
I'm just going to ask you there, Glenn. So obviously this, I forget what it was, the other organization, they have a policy of tagging fish off the coast of Greenland, yeah?
Yeah. A lot of researchers, we're trying to, the big question is what happens to the salmon when we're at sea. So the Canadians and the US, most of their salmon are on the west coast of Greenland. So they work in those waters. They tag a lot of serious tags, acoustic or satellite tags, and trying to determine, what's happening, how many are coming back into, the rivers in their respective areas. And I forgot to mention, they also, when we tag fish, a lot of times we take a small genetic sample, a little clip of the fin, and they can run it. What they had determined from the genetic test that they had done, that fish that they tagged was of UK and Irish origin.
Right. Wow.
It's what size was it when it was tagged? Sorry, you said it was 63 centimeters, wasn't it?
3.3 kilos.
63.5 centimeters and 3.3 kilos. So, and that was in 2023. So I'm presuming, based on, the sizes of the multi-sea winterfish that we get back in the Erriff, that, it was probably a good 5 kilos on its return. Now, we don't know because, we never saw the fish.
Yeah, it's pure estimation because you're just going off your readings off the tag. You actually haven't physically got to see the fish.
No, we haven't seen the fish, but based on the movements, it's that fish. It's in the Erriff, and then just based off the size of come back to the Erriff.
So, Glenn, is this the first instance of one of that organization's tagging coming to to Europe?
Yeah, that's the first that I'm aware of. And part of it is chance. There's probably other fish that have come in that they've tagged that have come back to Europe, but it's a matter of having, the equipment to pick it up in the rivers. We don't have acoustic receivers in all the rivers. So, it was just fortunate that it came back to the Erriff, which is our national salmonid index catchment, where we have, extensive research activities going on and picked it up.
So let's say on another system where there's no readings available, like there is in the Erriff system. Let's say further down the coast, somebody caught one of these fish. Could they tell easily that it had been tagged? Is it adipose clip or what is it?
No, because the tags are surgically implanted into the body cavity. So you would anesthetize the fish, make a small incision in the belly area, just central, insert the tag into the body and then suture it closed. And then once the fish is recovered, it's let go. Unless they put, some people do put an external tag up by the dorsal fin, like a Floyd tag, that could help an angler identify possibly that this fish is bearing a tag. But the only way an angler would know it is if they actually sacrificed the fish, and when they were cleaning it, if they found the tag in the body cavity. But it would be hard to see because they're usually covered over with a bit of fleshy material, connective tissue, and they can be quite hard to see.
What size are they actually? It's a matter of interest.
Let's say, I believe they said they tagged it with a 13 mil tag, so it'd be 13 millimeters in diameter, and maybe I'd have to look at the tag model, but you're talking probably 30. No, yeah, probably maybe 30 millimeters long, 40 millimeters long.
Just to reiterate the distance traveled, it was 2,300 kilometers.
Yeah, then that's a straight line distance.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, we don't know the path it took, but if I did measure it out, keeping the fish in the water, that it would be about 2,400 kilometers.
Wow. So can I ask you, Glenn, is that what we're thinking is where it came from in terms of Greenland? That's where the feeding grounds are. Like, is this the kind of regular journey or kind of normal journey we think that the salmon from the West Coast, from the Irish coast, are taking?
Well, I mean, a lot of fish, that's the big mystery of where they go at sea. And it's tough because when we're in Greenland, it's such a huge area. There's not a receiver arrays up there to keep track of where they're going. Our initial, we think a lot more of the European fish are actually on the east coast of Greenland. So, I've been involved. I've been going to Greenland the last couple of years. It's funded by NASCO, and the EU provides funding, and it's part of what we call the Smolt Track project. I go over with my Danish colleagues, and we go to the east coast in an area called Kamut outside of Kusaluk, and we were doing pretty much the same thing. We're trolling for salmon, catching salmon, and tagging them. And our initial genetic analysis of the initial study we did in 2021, which I wasn't part of that one, but yeah, most of all the fish there we caught were European fish. So we think most of our fish are on the east coast of Greenland feeding. And
just to reiterate, this is kind of more southwest.
Yeah, the one that we picked up was from the southwest. And I know, reading some of the reports from NASCO that look at genetics when they sample fish over that way. Yeah, there are some European fish there, but the bulk of them are American, Canadian fish.
Have you had a chance then, let's say the data then that's been collected by the American and the Canadian agencies on the tagging that they have done, have you had a chance to go through all of that, and basically to see, do they, because they take genetic samples, or they can find, they can do analysis on each clipping that they take, do they pick up more fish of European or even Irish origin?
They do pick up a handful, Tom. Now, I don't know the exact percents. I'd have to get online and download the various reports from NASCO where they do. It is published in various, years where they do this and get, the percentages. But there is, a percentage of European fish caught on the West Coast.
So is it a case of, I suppose, obviously more research is going to have to be done, but I think I get the impression, Glenn, has this kind of opened up maybe more tantalizing kind of areas to kind of maybe research more, that maybe there are changes going on in terms of fish heading more southwest? They're not all the east. Do you think this has kind of opened up a kind of a couple of rabbit holes to go down?
It just definitely, we do need more research in Greenland. It's logistically challenging. I mean, there's not a lot of infrastructure in the country. It's a daunting place to get to it and work, but definitely more needed.
Yeah, it is. It's an incredible story in terms of kind of, and I'm going to put up the link to it because just even kind of seeing the visual, the kind of the map, where you can just even see. I know it's a straight line, but when you look at the kind of the picture of the distance where it comes across the ocean there, and that I think this is just, it kind of helps open it up to people's eyes in terms of the journey and that the salmon go on to go back and spawn. Like, it is incredible to think this, and I think it brings it to life for people.
I mean, the distances that they travel and go to, I mean, it's just fascinating. I think that's part of the love of the species is, just these massive migrations and then returning to their home rivers is just magical.
Yeah. No, 100%. Was it when you came across this? Was it wow, this is when you found out the information, because obviously you had to make a few calls and finally it was
Yeah, I
no.
mean, when the tag manufacturer came back and said that it was sold to a Canadian researcher, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. This is, this is kind of the stuff we hope to find out or collect and learn more about. So I mean, just absolutely thrilled to find out the story of who tagged this fish and where it come from.
Yeah, I mean it really is. I mean, like it's gone, as we said there, it's gone on to mainstream media because it's just such an interesting story. I wanted to ask you there, Glenn. Like we talk here, we've done an awful lot on talking to guys at salmon here and what's happening out in sea. But we hear, like I hear anecdotally that their feeding grounds are going further and further northwards, or no, to more northern latitudes off the coast of Greenland, in whether it be to do with water temperatures or whether it's to do with search of food. Does your research bear testament to this, or can your research bear testament to this?
Yeah, I can't answer that accurately.
Right.
Very few people make it to Green. It's so remote. There's only 3,000 people that live on the entire East Coast. It's tough to get to. It's challenging. So where their distribution on the East Coast is kind of, no one knows much at all of their distribution or range over there.
Yeah. So I suppose it is exactly what I said. It's more anecdotal at the moment.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Well, incredible story. I'm going to put up the link because I think just people should see the map. It's just, yeah, it's amazing to see it. And hopefully we might be able to track it, Glen, again to see.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that, I'll check the receivers, later again this year and see, if the fish is moved back out or what has happened to it. So yeah, hopefully it survives spawning and goes back out again.
There's no chance it got lost. It took a right instead of a left.
No, I mean, they've done the genetics on it, and they knew it was a UK or Irish fish, so they have a strong homing thing. So yeah, there's fairly confident that it came from the Erriff originally.
Right.
Glenn, that's not a Mayo accent.
No, it's a California accent. I grew up in California, and then I immigrated. My wife's Irish. We immigrated to Ireland in 2005, and I started working for Inland Fisheries Ireland in February 2006.
So you're an angler as well?
I am, yeah. I live in Kerry, so it's Bass country. So any spare moment I've got, I'm chasing bass in the Shannon Estuary or around the Ballybunion area or North Kerry.
Oh, very good. What's the bass fishing? Because I've done a bit down kind of, more south. What's the bass fishing like up north?
It's phenomenal. There's not too many people that chase them up here, so it's pretty much, very few. You rarely see another bass angler, except for one or two marks. But yeah, no, the bass fishing is phenomenal, I think. I generally catch, the last few years, probably roughly 100 plus fish a year.
Yeah. Cool. Are you spinning?
Spinning, yeah. Mostly just throwing hard lures or soft plastics, or even metals sometimes, just work your way through the lures and find what they're feeding on.
And are you finding as well that, like, because I remember when I first started bass fishing years ago, and it was kind of like I was always interested in different parts of the country, and you're always directed more south, the kind of more northerly kind of, was obviously kind of just wasn't explored, or water temperature wasn't ideal. But I'm just wondering, obviously, because of the way the warming oceans, is it making a difference in terms of bass numbers kind of more northerly now?
Well, they are showing up more northerly. I think previously people just didn't target them too much, but I know there's the Donegal anglers, out of Killybegs. I think this Killybegs Sea Angling Club are catching them quite regularly. And I know that I've got Norwegian colleagues, and I know they've caught them as far up as Trondheim, which is halfway up Norway. So they are going further north.
But it was interesting when you said you live in Kerry and that you do bass fishing.
Yes.
I immediately thought Waterville.
Waterville, exactly.
You know,
No, Waterville's good. I've fished there a few times. If I'm working in the area after work, I might wet the line and catch a few down that way. But they're everywhere.
Well, Glenn, best of luck for the season for you. I'm hoping you'll find the salmon, the missing salmon up in.
Yeah, I can keep you updated if
please do.
If we do pick it up coming out, I can pop you an email and let you know.
Yeah, we'll let people. It'd be like fungi, you know what I mean? We'll just kind of keep seeing where he's at, like.
Yeah,
the new fungi.
The new fungi.
The new fungi.
But you know what it is, actually, sorry, Glenn, I'll let you go on, is it's a bit like with Fungi the dolphin. You know, you're kind of giving them a personal trait, a personal story. You know what I mean? That salmon, we know about salmon and it's a generic thing and that, but when you kind of start personalizing like this, that this is this one salmon that traveled nearly 2,500 kilometers, it kind of makes it easier for people to relate to, I think.
Yeah.
So look, we'll keep following it anyway. Glenn, thanks a million for joining us, and best of luck for the season and for your work this year as well.
Okay, thanks so much, Sarah and Tom.
Our thanks to Glen for joining us on the show. And don't forget to rate, review and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Plus, you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com as well as on Instagram, and myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.